Welcome to the Beauty in You podcast, a safe place created for all women to come relax, get inspired, and be constantly reminded that they have not lost the ability to be who they once were. Join us as we dive into the true meaning of rediscovery through inspiring guests and topics such as healing, self-love, and creating a positive mindset. So sit back, relax, and get comfortable as we dive into this week's episode. Here's your host, Chi Quita Mack.
Hey y'all, and welcome back to another episode of the Beauty in You podcast. I am super excited because we're heading to Arizona today, guys. Our guest is a multifaceted individual making waves as an author, CEO, and faith-based coach. With a passion for empowering others, her work spans across various platforms, guiding individuals towards their spiritual and personal growth. Through her writing, leadership, and coaching, she inspires others to navigate life challenges with faith and resilience. Welcome to the Beauty in You podcast, Phyllis Hunter. Hey, Mama, how are you?
Hi, thank you. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, listen, I am super excited to have you. I think your story is just remarkable, and it's definitely an inspiration for others who may feel that they just can't see the light. So with that, can you take us on your rediscovery journey?
Absolutely. I'm going to do my best to keep it, kind of short. I feel like there's different moments in our life where we have to rediscover, who we are, who we want to be, and not just rediscovering, but really reinventing ourselves because we constantly change, right? We're not the same people we were 5, 10, 15 years ago. And we're not going to be the same people, 5, 10, 15 years from now. So I'm just excited, from where God has brought me from and where he's taken me to. I served in the military, and during that time, although I had faith in God, I kind of, hopped around from church to church, different things like that, visited different places. I've lived in other countries. I really just took the time to kind of figure out, who am I? Who do I want to be? And that kind of took me on this journey of, okay, I got married, I had kids, I got divorced, and so many different things changed. We went from, making a 6-figure income, dropping down to a pretty much almost a no-figure income, right? And it was a very tough experience going from, homelessness and not having work and, learning how to be a single mom, which was, it was tough in itself. And so I thank God, because it was through those trials and tribulations that I really had to learn how to, one, develop my character, develop thick skin, right? To really learn how to live with very minimal when I was used to having much, and go to climb my way back out of that pit that I was in. And in that process, I really learned that, my relationship with God went to a deeper, much different level of understanding. Motherhood, changed from, how I was raised to, how do I want my children to be raised, and, what am I teaching them, and different things like that. And it just, honestly, I went from the up to the down, back to climbing my way back up. And I feel like a lot of people oftentimes get so discouraged in the downfalls. But the thing is that's where we learn the lessons. That's where we learn, how strong are we really? What's important, what matters to us, and what doesn't. What we can put our energy towards, and what we can just say, you know what, I don't even need to fight that battle. So I really learned a lot through that. And as I had mentioned before, I spent 6 months in a homeless shelter. I spent another 6 months, basically living on a friend's couch, pretty much, losing my cars, and, having to take 3 buses across town, 2-3 hours just to get to work and get the kids to school and back again. And I started out working as a janitor for 2 hours a day. And keep in mind, I had a degree, y'all. I had 2 degrees, and did not use either one of them. Just the workforce just wasn't there. And so I started out as a janitor at a daycare, and from there, the owners saw the hard work, the director saw the hard work, the time that I was willing to put in, and I ended up becoming a teacher there, a full-time teacher, to working my way up to the assistant director. I kid you not, I got straight mentorship from the owner herself, who taught me how to open my own business.
Wow.
And so we did that. And from then on, all the lessons that I learned now, our business took off. We made more money, which was awesome. I am now a pastor now, which if you would have known me 5 years ago, that was not in my language, my vocabulary at all. It just wasn't, right? And now to even taking the steps to open up my own learning center right here in Arizona, Christian-based, faith-based learning center, that had not been in the pit and crawled my way out, I wouldn't have learned what I needed to learn to get to where I am today. So for those of you that are listening to this and you feel like life just isn't where you wanted it to be, or it's not going the way that you anticipated, it's not too late to make some changes. It's not too late to still press forward towards your goals, and to know that this season of your life is temporary, that after the rain does come the sunshine and the rainbows. And just so you know, that rainbow is the promise from God that he shall fulfill his purpose here on earth. So I just want to, encourage that person, that mama bear that's out there that's going through the rut. I promise you, before they be this shiny, beautiful thing. So the pressure is there to make you stronger. So I just want to encourage, those that are watching, especially the moms that are out there. We get caught up in our children and in our spouses and our workplace, and we have a tendency of, taking things all on and carrying it on our shoulders. So if you're listening and you feel like, your world is coming crashing down, maybe you feel overwhelmed, maybe you feel like your life just isn't, it doesn't look the way that you had planned or the way that you had anticipated, I want to encourage you, because even diamonds have to go through an immense amount of pressure before they become these beautiful, shiny things. And then they're worthwhile, then people will spend the money and people will go out of their way to accumulate that. So I just want to let you know that you are the diamond. And although you're in the rut, if you just stick with it, you will come out on top.
Oh my goodness. Thank you for those words. I feel like you were speaking to me like 5 years ago because my story, like I was really in that place of hurt, and I would have people that I can always say I did have a good support group, and they would speak words of wisdom just like you did, and say like, just hang in there, you have to go through this, you have to learn the lesson. But once you go through, Kita, I'm telling you, it's going to be there. The light's going to be there. You're going to get your flowers. And I could not see it. I was like, y'all crazy. I'm over here stressed out. I don't know what to do. I'm crying every day. I'm
Yeah.
going through depression. I'm having anxiety attacks. I don't know what this is. Like, people want me to go sit on somebody's couch and talk. I don't sit on that side of the couch. I'm on the other side of the couch. Like, seriously, I'm like fighting all of those things. And they're like, no, Kita, stop, breathe, learn the lesson. You're going to have to go through this, but your story one day will inspire so many and you're going to change the world. I'm like, can y'all stop? Like, I remember at one point being so angry because people were telling me this. Yeah, I was
Wow.
so angry. I was just like, oh my God, because I felt like at that time, no one knew what I was going through. So I'm like, y'all don't know the level of pain I'm at and how I'm having to push through and continue to raise my kids and continue on out there, go to work and deal with that side of, dealing with people at work and having so much you're going through inside and nobody really understands. And everyone's just telling me that's like, just smile, girl. It's going to you're going to see the light. But then when I saw the light, I was like, oh yeah, I was right. Okay.
It's sometimes it's so hard to see the light when you're in the tunnel, right? When everything just seems so dark and you feel like you're so caved in at times, it's so hard to see the light that's at the end of the tunnel. But it reminds me of the scripture, Jeremiah 29:11. It says that, for I know the plans that I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to give you a hope and a future, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, right? And so all it simply means is that God already has a plan for our life, despite the sunshine, despite the rain, right? Despite the tunnel, like we're going to have to go through the tunnel. But once we go through and we make it on the other side, there's a future that's there. There's a hope that's there. There's a good plan that God has for us. And this is what I tell people. Even though we don't know every single step of the plan, we serve an amazing God that does know every single step of the plan. And this is why faith is important. My mom used to tell me all the time growing up, you're not sick and tired of being sick and tired until you do something about it, right? And so when we're going through it, we're just so sick and tired of being sick and tired. But once we get to the point where, like you said, I was angry. Once you get to that point where you're angry enough to do something, you will then say, you know what? Enough is enough. I'm done with this. I'm ready to move forward. And you're going to do whatever it takes to get out of that tunnel. The crazy thing is, though, is once you're out of the tunnel, don't be so afraid to go back in and pull someone else out. And I feel like oftentimes as people, we forget that. We forget, like, we get so caught up on being on our high horse and, yeah, we've got the business or we've got the job, we've got the position, we've got the title, and money seems good and our home is taken care of and things are flourishing. And it's like, what next? Well, hello, go help somebody else who can't see the light right now, and you know the way, right? Yeah, we get so caught up in what's happening around us that we forget, oh wait, this is a part of the process. I have to go through this in order to come out on the other side. And it does, it hurts. It's scary. It makes us angry. We get frustrated. We feel like nobody understands. And you could be surrounded by the most amazing group of supportive people in the world and still feel so alone. This is why our relationship with our creator is so important. And I'm not just speaking from a Christian point of view. If someone is listening here today and they don't classify themselves as a Christian, well, you better find something that you find purpose in. Absolutely. Because that's what's going to get you through, right? For me, I say Christ because that's who I believe. But I come across a lot of people all the time who don't necessarily believe in Christ. And if you don't, that's fine. But believe in something. Have a purpose in something, because that faith is what's going to get you through the tunnel.
Yes. I remember waking up some mornings and not feeling like I had the strength to get through the day. And I would be like,
Ugh.
Lord, I don't have it, but please just, if I can just lean on you. Like I remember having like those prayers because I had to, and I did lean heavy into the faith then and now just more than ever. But I just remember just being like, I did not, once I got out of it, I'm like, I did not just go through all of this for nothing. There is no way the Lord put me through that for no reason. I have a purpose and I have got to share my story. I've got to help other women. I have to. Like, there's no way, and it was tough in the beginning because it's hard to sometimes share your story. And I still get emotional sometimes talking through my story, but I still have to do it. I just feel it in my soul that I have to share my story because it's going to touch someone. And that's what I'm here to do for sure.
Absolutely. And you know what? If our story doesn't make us emotional, then we've detached ourselves from it, and we've detached ourselves from the results that it could bring someone else. And so I they call me the crybaby of the church because I get emotional about everything. I'm like, somebody wants to tell a testimony, I'm like, oh my God, that's so good. Right? But it's because when you know where God has brought you from and you know where he's going to take you to, you can't help but be excited for the person that's going through it, because you know that if they just hold on, if they just, build their strength, build their stamina, right? Like God will give us the endurance that we need to run the race, right? But if they just stick it through, that just on the other side of the promises that were delivered to them, like on the other side of that process, the promises being fulfilled are so much more worth the sacrifices, right? And it's tough at times. Like I didn't get full deep into my story because if I did, we'd be here forever. Right. But But our testimony is there to help someone else. Why? Because if God could do it for us, he could do it for someone else,
Mhm.
right? And so somebody out, God only knows what would happen to them if they didn't hear your story. What if them hearing how you went through it and how you came out triumphant is what allows them one more day on this earth?
Yeah.
What if that's the case, right? What if somebody is blessed by your story and they decide, hey, I'm coming out on top, regardless of what happens, I'm coming out on top. And then they turn out to leave the most biggest impactful legacy that this world has ever seen. But if we don't ever share our testimony, we're blocking, not only are we blocking our blessing, but we're blocking somebody else's blessing because somebody is waiting to hear how we have like literally came from the mud, right?
Mhm.
And shook it off and washed it off. And now it's like now we're climbing mountains and we want to take you with us. You get what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Somebody needs to hear that testimony for sure.
Absolutely. Our story.
So I get excited. I I I know this is really like, oh, you asking me to come up here, but oh, I think we're cutting in and out.
Needless to say, I think I posted the other day, I put like your message, because it is so true. Like everything that you're going through, it's yours. And it's for you to go through, learn the lessons, and share those messages. So often you'll see me say a lot of like, tell your story, tell your story, tell your story, because I'm just encouraging someone to just find the strength they need to get out there and tell their story and really digest those lessons that they learn, because it's just important. And I know it can be embarrassing and you feel some type of embarrassment from it, but don't feel embarrassed. Like everyone in this world has gone through something and is going through something. So no one's perfect, trust me, no matter who you watch on the social media world, everything's so social these days. Like everyone's going through something. So learn the lesson, share your story, and inspire others. That's all I want you to do is tell your story. Tell your story.
Absolutely. I feel like, especially in my profession, I feel like because, we get called to ministry because, we're pastors and we're teachers and we're supposed to be coaching people. And even you, like, therapy is key and we're the coaches that I feel like sometimes we forget that it is okay to be a little vulnerable with the people because it makes us relatable. Not
Mhm.
saying that we have to be this worldly thing, but that we have to be able to connect with the people that we serve, right? Because your message is your message and it fits an entirely different audience than mine, right?
Mhm.
My message is my message and it fits an entirely different audience than yours. And imagine if we don't share that story, that what we've gone through and how we've been able to come out of it, how we're victorious now because of it. If we don't share it, then the listener who's listening, I mean, God only knows, sometimes that just, like I said, it just might be the thing that pulls them out. And
Mhm.
so we just can't be afraid to be able to speak up, especially living in America. Like we live in the number one country where we have this quote unquote freedom of speech, if you will.
Yeah.
And yet so many people are afraid to speak it. Or like you said, the social media, we hear so much negativity, but where's the positive in it? Like,
Mhm.
yeah, you're talking about your storm, but what about the sunshine too? Like
Mhm.
how did you come out of that? Because somebody else needs to know it.
Yep.
Somebody else might say, I done everything that I could think of. I've read every single book. I've talked to every single therapist. I done went to see every single pastor. I done been to every single church. I don't know what's going on with me. But it might just be that one story that they hear on that one podcast that they came across, and it forever changes
Things.
their life. So we as a people, we've got to be the ones to say, yes, it's okay for me to share the testimony of, where I've been and some of the mistakes I made, but let me share you what I learned along the way and
Mhm.
now where I'm at and where we're going, right?
Yep.
I think people just get so afraid to do that for some reason. I don't know.
It's like I think with the social media part of it, I think it's just this thing of like perfect. Like everything has to be perfect. Everything perfect, perfect, perfect. So when you're going through these
Mm.
little squares on Instagram, is like, I have to create this perfect life. And even some folks on Facebook, they're like, they have
Yeah.
to create these perfect lives. But I know people that ain't their story.
Right,
And
right, right,
but they're too afraid to say that because of what others may think. So they spend that energy actually
right.
portraying something that's not necessarily true. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, there'll be people that'll be like, girl, how do you do it? I'll be like, I don't. Like, there's like 10 things on my list that did not get done today.
Right, 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 right,
Let me
right.
tell you
Or
which,
in the
let me tell you about
right
that.
in the midst of that scrolling though, that Instagram scrolling, what they don't see is the 2 hours that somebody spent just trying to take that picture and another 2 hours editing that picture just to make it look picture perfect. No,
Yeah,
boo, that's not reality.
that's not it. That
The
is not
truth
it.
is, it took hours and hours and hours. I mean, when I first started creating my courses, right, I would do filming, like the videos. These
Mhm,
videos, girl, they're 12 to 15 minutes long,
mhm.
but they were originally recorded in hour sessions.
Yep.
And how many times did I had to say, welcome to the New Life show, like 30 times before I found the right one, right? So people are so caught up in what it looks like on social media that they forget there's an entire reality on the back end. And
Mhm.
because we live in a microwave society, people want they want like the glamorous results right now
Yep.
without having to put in the work. I mean, it's like podcasting. It takes forever to edit videos and to get conversation. And we do it because there's a bigger purpose than us, right? But some
Mhm.
people forget that that's a part of the process.
Yep.
Like you're gonna have to go through some things in order to have some wisdom and experience to share. Like no wisdom, and no experience. It just means that you didn't go through some things. And I pity that. I really do. I pity the person who's had everything handed to them and never had to work for anything. Like I really do, because how are you going to make it in this world but on your own, like,
Right.
you know what I mean? And
Yes.
I come across these people, especially the young people, like and I'm young, I get it, I'm much older than I actually look, thank God. Idea, y'all have no idea. It's like, man, there's some work that to be done, but you know what, if you do it in your 20s and in your 30s, then by the time you're 40, 50, 60, guess what, you've learned the lesson. And you're still going to
Mhm.
learn lessons, of course, but the hitting your head on the brick wall, the touching the
Right.
iron while it's hot, even though your mama told you not to.
You do it anyway.
You do it anyway, right? You make those mistakes early on, so that way later on you can pour into someone else, right?
Mhm. Absolutely. I think that it's funny when you're like, don't, I'm thinking, don't touch the iron, touch it anyway. How many times you tell your kids not to do something, they do it
Right,
anyway? Like,
right.
oh my
I
God.
told you not to. Yeah.
Like, didn't I just tell you? And sometimes
Uh-huh.
they have to learn on their own, no matter how much we pour into them, you have to learn your own. But what I think is important, like when we go through our rediscovery journeys, sometimes asking for things, but not ready to receive them. For example, like we
Mm,
go through our rediscovery journey and we want love, or we want to feel loved, or we want to feel the belonging, we want to feel all of these things.
mm.
But all of those things that we want to receive, we haven't necessarily done the work yet to be able to receive
Yes.
those things. And so, no matter
Yes.
what it is that you're going through, you have got to put in the work. Like you have to put in
Absolutely.
the work and like peeling that onion, which is yourself, like
Yeah.
understanding the core of what happened, and actually dealing with those trauma things. Because if you don't, I mean, you're just
Mhm.
literally just pushing it down and it's going to find its way out of your body
Oh yeah.
some
Because
way.
they grow roots, right? Because
Yes.
that onion is gonna, if it sits there dormant for so long, it's gonna start sprouting little
Mhm.
sprouts and little roots, and then that turns into something much bigger. Absolutely. And you know what? It's just a part of the growth journey. I think about maybe 4, 5 years ago, 4 years ago, really. I changed my prayer. I stopped asking, because I told you I've been divorced, right? I
Mhm.
stopped asking God, God send the man, God send the man. I stopped asking that. I stopped praying that because realized after taking a long, hard look in the mirror, if that man were to show up, am I ready to receive him?
Yeah.
Because if we're not ready to receive that which we're asking for, we could easily destroy it, right? And
Mhm.
this is what the lessons are. This is what the things that we have to go through and the lessons that we have to learn. This is what they're for, is to prepare us for what's next. It's to prepare us to receive the promises that God made to us so long ago, right? when you're
Mhm.
6, 7, 8 years old, 10, 11, 12 years old, and you have this big dream. And, I no longer do this with my kids. I know for a fact when I was younger, especially in our generation, it's like, okay, what's done in the house and what's said in the house, it stays in the house. It doesn't leave out of here. You're supposed to
Mhm.
just, go to school, go get a job, and that's just supposed to be your life, right?
Yep.
And I don't teach my kids that now. I teach my kids that, if you have a dream or if you have a goal, go after it. Yeah, you're going to have to put in some work, but go after it, because even if it doesn't work out, you could at least say, at least you attempted it. But
Mhm.
guess what? What if it does work out?
Yeah.
Right? What if it does? Right? And so I never want them to sit, dormant for too long. I never want them to, you know, just be stuck in this mindset of, oh, I have to stay this way. I have to stay the same. No, I want you to grow. I want you to flourish. I want you to blossom. As a matter of fact, in Genesis, God tells us to have dominion over the earth. Well, how do we do that? To be fruitful and to multiply. And most people like to equate being fruitful as making babies. No, that's not what he said. Being
Mhm.
fruitful just means to be in production, constantly producing a better result. Now, once you start producing, then what? It's time to multiply. What does that mean? To develop,
There
to
you go.
grow,
There you
to
go.
get bigger, right? And so once you've learned the hard lessons, guess what? Now it's that perfecting stage where now you're getting better and now you're growing and now you're developing and now it's time to reach one, teach one, right? So we can grow somebody else and help them and pour into them. And that's how it spreads.
Mhm.
If the world could spread hatred like a wildfire, we could spread some love like a wildfire and encourage somebody to really just take a step out on faith. Do
Mhm.
the things, right? The things that you wanted to do. Get out there. Don't be afraid to make mistakes, because that's how you learn. And once you learn from them, get better. Get better. We talked about that in service today. Kobe, bless his heart, Kobe did what was called a 666 during his off season. I don't even know what his workouts were like during his on season, but during his off season, meaning when he's not even playing games and tournaments and whatnot,
Mhm.
he practiced and worked out for 6 hours a day for 6 days out of the week. And he did that consistently for 6 months. But here's the thing, Kobe is no longer with us physically on this earth, right?
Right. Right.
However, he is still considered one of the greatest ball players
Yes.
of all times. Why? Because he was willing to put in the work. And
Absolutely.
we looked at a couple of different other people, but I touched on Kobe because, I mean, 6 hours a day. Some people don't even want to work for 6 hours a day.
Listen.
6 days out of the week. Oh, people think that they not supposed to work on Saturday. Come on now.
Mhm.
Like, you got to do the things. You got to do the things. That's what matters. And that's what's going to propel you forward.
Yep. I tell that to my kids all the time. First, I want to touch on the fact that I love that you're breaking the cycle. I call it breaking the cycle because our generation, well, us growing up, our childhood, well, I can speak for my own, which just wasn't that like expiring for your dreams and things like that. There's so much that I wanted
Yeah.
to do that I didn't feel that I had the support to necessarily
Hmm.
accomplish those dreams. And so when I talk to my children now, it's the same thing. Like, whatever you tell me you want to do, I'm going to give you all the resources you can to be
Yep.
successful. So the one thing you can't say is that my mom and dad did not support me in my dream. Like you're going to
Right.
have those
Right.
resources to get there. Now what happened after that? I don't know, but I gave you everything you needed now to get
Right.
to that level. And
Right.
so I
Right.
call that breaking the cycle. So I love that you are having those conversations with your kids and are saying like, no, go out there, follow your dreams. Yes, it could not work out, but it also could work out. And I
Right.
just think that's
Absolutely.
beautiful to just be part of the generation now where we're listening to our kids and we're putting that strength and that power into them and showing
Hmm.
them a different way. Like I want them to go travel the world, learn the lessons and share and just become these great little people, our new leaders, our future
Right.
leaders. But I want to
Right.
commend you on just, changing the
Thank you.
cycle. I think that's beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. I like what you said though, breaking that cycle, right? There's such thing as generational curses.
Hmm.
And they have been passed down from generation to generation. And slowly but surely, at some point it seemed like they might have been getting worse, or maybe they're taking a life of its own, especially because you don't know where those come from. Like there's a story where the daughter asked the mom, well, mom, why do you put your roast in two different pots? And she's like, I don't know. I did it because my mama did it. And then she
Hmm.
goes to her grandmother and she's like, well, grandma, why did you put the roast in two different pots? And she says, well, I don't know. My mama did it. So that's what I did. And then she goes to her great grandma and she's like, well, grandma, why did you put the roast in the well, baby, my oven wasn't big enough and my pan wasn't big enough. So I just cut it in half. They didn't really understand why we did what we did. But now we have big pans and now we have big ovens.
Yeah.
So there's got to be a better way, right? And I feel like especially in the ethnic communities, as Black women, as mothers, we've been so conditioned to carry everything on our backs 100% of the time. And we're not supposed to talk about it. We're not supposed to show weakness. We're not supposed to show that it hurts. We're not supposed to show that we're sad. We're not supposed to do any of that, right? But one thing that I've always told my children is we're a team, especially when I had to learn how to become a single mother. Because, it's very typical today's age that most young Black women are single moms from the jump, that they don't get married. They just have children, right?
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
I was married so young. I got married at 18 to my high school sweetheart at that point in time. So it was like, going into parenthood and different things like that was a learning curve, especially when both of us were in the military and he's gone. He's in another country somewhere every 6 months out of our relationship. And so now having to learn how to become that single mom, and I had a son first. I think we as young Black women, we make our sons, we put them on this pedestal that they're supposed to be these young, strong Black men. And, yes, we're their moms, but they're the man of the house and they're only like 10. No, they're not the man of the house. They're your
They're
child.
10. Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're 10, right? So for me, it was, okay, we're a team. We have to work together as a team. This is my role. This is your role. But guess what, guys? Even though we're a team, we still have individual purposes to fulfill. So what do you want to do? Right? Mom's doing this. And I show them that. I'm not just, it's one of those things where when we were young, right? Children are meant to be seen, not heard, right? You do as I say, not as I do.
As I
But
do.
the fact of the matter is people are going to do 80% of what they see you do and only 20% of what they hear. So for me, it's if I want my children to be, embedded in the Lord, well, then I have to show them what that looks like.
Yep.
If I want my children to, be business owners or to be successful or whatever the case may be, I have to show them that. Like, I went to college, I got the degrees, and my children are saying, well, Mom, I've seen you, but you've been an entrepreneur for so long now. Is it really worth me going to college? Baby, if you don't want to be a doctor or a lawyer or a therapist or something that requires a degree, you don't have to go to college. But you're not going to just sit at home and do nothing either, right? So whatever it is that you want to do, like my son's in track and he's fast. And I'm like, okay, we're going to get the things. We're going to get the cleats. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. Because at the end of the day, like you said, you will never be able to say, Mommy did not support me in whatever it was that I wanted to do. Now, the result of that is up to you. It's my job to drive you there, to pick you up, to give you all the tools and the resources. But what you do with that, that's on you. The results, that's on you. You're either going to work at it and make it work, or you find out you really don't like it and it's on to the next. But either way, that decision is on you. And you can never say that you were not set up for success.
Yep. I feel like you're talking to my kids right now because I say that same exact thing. We're like the same people right now. I'm gonna get you there. I'm your Uber driver. I'm gonna get you
That's
there.
it.
But don't be do the work. And if
No
you don't want to
excuses,
do
right?
it, tell me because you wasted my time. No,
Right. There's no excuses, man. I'm telling you.
I want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. My son, so my oldest, he's 16. He plays basketball, and my daughter runs track. So it's kind of those same things. I just had a conversation with her earlier this week because she was like in practice, and I know when she works hard and when she doesn't work hard. And I was like,
right. Right. I know.
Because I have time for this. And you said you want to make these goals this year. You're going to have to push through. Now we could go home.
That's it.
I would love the free time.
Right. An extra 20 minutes relaxing my face right now.
Yes,
oh, girl, I know.
But here we are. So, but it is just my goal to just push and pour into them as much as I can. And sometimes that flips on me because if I'm like not feeling like doing it or I'm feeling down, my daughter will be the one to be like, the Chi Quita Mack, is that positive? Is that this? Is that that? And I'm like,
right? That's
okay.
the accountability though.
Help me accountable too.
What?
But I allow them to do that,
Yes.
Like, okay, I needed that. I could never do that to my mom. I would have been like, what?
Oh, girl. I know. If I did that to my mom, I'd have lost all my teeth. I know. I love my teeth.
I'm sorry. I was just thinking it. I'm sorry.
Right. And you know what's funny is they know when you think it too. They
Yeah.
know when you think it. It's like, oh, mom, come on, you know?
Oh,
Absolutely.
that is so funny. I want
Yeah.
to switch gears to another thing of what you do is just being in that of an author. Your words are already inspiring. You're speaking like you just speak so beautifully, but I want you to talk to me about the power of being an author in your current book. But we'll start with the power of being the author.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Okay. So it's crazy because I feel like I've been writing my whole life. I used to write little poems and little stories and stuff as a kid and not really understanding. I took literacy classes in high school, and I had a phenomenal English, and I had an African American literature teacher and an American literature teacher who was really awesome, right?
Mhm.
And it's so funny because I never really thought I would actually publish a book until let's see, I think it was right before COVID, maybe right
Okay.
before COVID was actually announced, I should say. I self-published my first ebook.
Mm.
And that was really cool. It was nice and all. It was just something to say that I did. I didn't really sell too many copies. I just wanted to know that I could do it, right?
Right.
And then I wrote two other books after that. Those were collaboration books with multiple authors.
Mhm.
And that one was really awesome because I didn't have to self-publish it. I was published through a publishing company, and we became international best-selling authors in over 17 different countries. It was so awesome. It was like I put this on my vision board in December of 2021, I think, and then it happened Mother's Day 2022. So it was super awesome. But I was excited about the book, right?
Mhm.
But I just felt like there was something else. There was something more.
Mhm.
And around that time, I think it was 2020, maybe 2020 or 2021, I
Mhm.
went through a discovering your spiritual gifts class. And it's funny because it actually wasn't really a class. It was an exercise my mentor and I did that I then developed into a class for our church now. And
Wow.
so it was discovering your spiritual gifts. And I realized that one of my spiritual gifts is exhortation.
Mhm.
And so all exhortation means is the ability to encourage others through written and spoken word. And when I got that, oh my God, my whole life changed before my eyes. So there's three things that the word of God brings to us. The
Mhm.
first one is revelation, right? I
Mhm.
received revelation in that moment and I was like, oh my God, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Oh my God, I know my purpose now. Like, you want me to write books and encourage people? Oh my God, I could do that, right? And then the next thing is it brings confirmation. Well, it had confirmed the feeling that I had in the dream that was exposed to me when I was 12. So when I was 12, I had a dream that I was speaking on a stage in front of thousands of people, and I was encouraging them, and they were getting so excited. And from that, people were coming up to me telling me their story of how my words motivated them and encouraged them to do something great, right? And so I was like, oh my God, I wonder what this dream means. I was 12 back then, girl. I didn't
Wow.
understand it, right? But when I went through this activity, this exercise, it gave confirmation.
Mhm.
And then the third thing that the word of God brings is transformation. See, it gave me the understanding and the confidence that I need to flip that switch and say, yes, I can step into the woman that I am actually created to be. And so last year, a couple of years ago, I had heard this lesson and was teaching it as a Bible study, talking about the grace that God gives us during the different phases that we go through in life, different seasons that we go through in life. And so last year, God told me probably around like October, actually, I had experienced a friend of mine who passed away. It was set
Sorry.
friend for 17 years. Actually, if I'm being completely honest, was like the love of my life that I thought I was going to marry, but God said no. And so it
Wow.
was 17 years in the making that we had been like the best of friends, and he passed away. And I was like, God, what's next? I realized that God was pruning me, which is a season.
Mhm.
God was taking away the things that no longer served me or the things that were preventing me from moving forward to where he wanted me to go. And so God said, write the book. And I said, okay, you want me to write the book? He says, yeah, write the book. And I'm like, but God, I just don't know. Just write the book.
Write the
And I
book.
tousled and turned with it. And I'm like, no, I don't even know what to say. I don't know. Just write the book. And I'm like, okay, fine. It happened, I don't know, for like almost a week straight at like 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, where God is waking me up
Oh,
saying, write the book. And I finally wrote it in less than 3 days. There was an entire book that had been written. And it turned into being this was in November, I wrote the book. We had some complications and issues with editing and different things like that. Because I've been a graphic designer prior to all of this fun stuff,
mm-hmm.
I designed my own book cover. And if I'm being completely honest, the money that I had that I was bringing in was going towards build and ministry and all this different stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, man, God, I know how much it takes to publish a book. I don't know where this is going to come from. And when the moment that I spoke up and I said, hey, I'm writing this book, would you be willing to support me? And people started saying yes. And I was just like, oh crap, I got enough money to publish this book. Okay, look at
Yes.
God. So the book is about the 5 spiritual phases that we go through in life and the grace that God gives us in order to maneuver through those seasons. How do we recognize that we're in them? How do we recognize where we want to go? What lessons do we need to learn? And then how to get out of it, right? Going through the
Right.
next season. So the 5 seasons are: one, the growth season. There's a growing process to our lives, right? The pruning season, obviously, I just shared that, taking things away that no longer serve you or are distracting you from moving forward. The wilderness season, which is the most common season that I see people in, is also the hardest season for anyone to go through. I talk about the journey of Moses and the Israelites being in the wilderness for 40 years. What was supposed to only be a 30-day journey into their promised land turned out to be 40 years and 2 generations later. That's the depression. That's the learning your character. That's the, I can't see my way through, but God, what do I do? The
Mm-hmm.
4th one is our rest season. Rest is so important for success. No matter what you consider success in your life, rest is so important. It rejuvenates us. It replenishes us, right? It gives us the strength that we need to move forward. And then finally, the season that everyone loves is our harvest season, our
Yep.
success season. And there is a way to even manage our success season so that we continuously have success. My greatest, I won't say regret, because I don't regret anything. I just learn from it, right?
Yep.
But one of my greatest
Absolutely.
failures was, at one point was making a significant amount of income and not knowing how to multiply it, not
Mm-hmm.
knowing how to duplicate it year after year after year. And that's kind of what led me into some of the financial issues that I had before, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the book is super phenomenal. And at the time, I didn't know who was going to buy it. I didn't know. I wasn't thinking about that. I
Mm-hmm.
just heard God say, write the book. So I did it. And it just so turned out that I still, till this day, I get testimonies from people who say, your book helped change my life. Your book, it encouraged me to do this. Your book, this, that, and the third. And see, I didn't write it for me because I'd already been through that Bible
Right.
study. I had already lived all those seasons before, right? I wrote it so that somebody else could be encouraged and somebody else can know how to live their life on purpose,
Yeah.
not reacting, but being proactive in their life, right? And so now if I'm going to be truthfully honest with you, the 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 books that I wrote, the 2 books that I wrote that helped me get to the title of international bestselling author, it was a collaboration book with 16 other women, and so we all played a part in selling, right? That was
Right.
very helpful. But I didn't sell as many of those books, not on my own anyway, right?
Right.
This book, because it was something that I know God specifically spoke to me, I've sold more books and it's still selling.
Yes.
And now we're working on turning it into a workbook for ministry leaders, for pastors, for teachers. So that way you can teach it to your small group. You can teach it to your church. And then it's in a workbook for those. So if you buy the book, you'll see that even in the book, there are pages after every single chapter that has questions that you can answer. And there's stuff in there you can write in it. It's a journal/journal kind of thing too, which is really awesome. But the workbook is allowing people to be able to what I, you have to take action, right?
Yep.
Faith without works is dead, and it's impossible to please God without faith. But what faith people mistake faith for belief, and they're not the
Mm.
same. Okay, you
Right.
can believe for something, which is awesome. It's a hope, right? Your belief is a hope, right?
Yep.
But faith is a verb. What does that mean? That means that it requires giving something or someone action,
Yep.
taking action. And even God, in the word of God, it just says that now faith is the evidence of things. What does that mean? Now faith, right now, in the present moment, the actions that you take today is what's going to bring the evidence of God's glory into your life so that other people can see. So for me, it was just write the book. So I took the action. I took the steps. And now people are being blessed by it. And I'm so grateful that people are being blessed by it. Like, I never wanted this to, like, oh, this isn't something that is gonna, oh, it's gotta make me rich type of thing. I do believe that God does give us the power to create wealth. It does say that in Deuteronomy 8. However, every single dollar that's being raised from the books being sold is what's pouring back into two separate ministries, one in the United States and one in Africa, which I'm so passionate about. I oversee a ministry in Africa, and it's just so to be able to allow others to receive the goodness of God where they normally would not be able to has been so phenomenal. So I'm excited
Yes.
about this one. We're working on the next book. Don't worry, there's going to be more that comes, but it's all just from using the gifts that God gave me. And I know for a fact that God has given every single person on this earth a specific set of talents, gifts, or skill sets, whatever you want to call it. The problem is that most people allow them to die with them. But
Yes.
God wants us to use them right now while we are here. In Proverbs, it says that a man's gift makes room for him to grow. And it sets him before kings, right? Which is the King James Version. It says it'll set him before important people, him or her. Okay. It's not just male, but
Right.
male and female. We were all created for something specific. And when we step into that anointing, when we step into that purpose, into that calling, God will use that to elevate us. Why? Because he gets the glory. And I'm just
Mhm.
sharing that with my church today, that nobody wants to serve a God that, if like, you can't be out here broke and sick and depressed and all this stuff, and you out there sharing the word of God, and you're like, well, what's wrong with you? The word ain't working for you. Why am I going to serve that God? Right? It
Right.
doesn't work that way. We have to be the ones to practice the word and to live the word. And the more we are leveled up, if you will, the more that we are edified and have a level of influence, the more God gets the glory. Why? Because it came from him and it shall return back to him.
Yeah.
And so we have to be the ones to stand bold and say, I'm going to say yes, 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 and amen. Okay. God's word is yes. And our amen means that I'm saying yes to your will, God. I
Yep.
agree to it. My life did not completely change overnight, and it still is changing and evolving, but I didn't start to see the true joy and love of God and peace of God until I started using my gift of written and spoken word. And I'm so grateful that I learned that lesson. So now I've made it my journey to where we do teach courses now on discovering your purpose and discovering your spiritual gifts and how to use that. So my whole ministry is really just teaching people how to be effective ambassadors for the kingdom of God.
I love it. I love it. You are changing so many lives, which you know that. But for y'all that is listening, like she already spit some crazy gems today. And I am just so blessed and honored that you are here. Your voice is powerful. Like you are motivating, like, I'm going to go do this. Y'all write that book, listen to the voice inside of you, follow your heart, the feeling that you have, and make it happen. I can relate to your part of your story. We were talking about like write the book, write the book. So for my book, I have a workbook, but it's like literally it was a composition notebook. It was my
Mhm.
healing process. And
Wow.
so when I was going through therapy and I was at rock bottom, I really got into big into journaling. And so I would
Mm,
had to write down like what were my triggers, what was I feeling, what were my goals, my positive affirmations. Like that was
mm.
my book. So that little black and white raggedy notebook is my workbook, The Beauty in You Now.
That's
And I
awesome.
was so afraid because that's what helped me. But I do remember starting this process being like, I don't know where to start. I don't know where to
Mm.
start. So creating that, I feel like, okay, guys, we don't know where to start when we're in our healing journeys. So this is what this workbook is for. You know, it's what I used to get to here. A lot of work, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, but at least it's a starting point for you. But I was afraid because it's like, it's what I did. This is my feelings, my thoughts, everything. And I'm about to share this with the world. And I was fighting it. But then I heard the voice like, you got to get it out there. You have to get it out there. You have to get it out there. And I'm like, oh my God. My excuses were, I don't really know how to do this. I don't really know how. So no, it's probably going to be too much work. Everything that I could think of to not publish it,
Mm,
it was kind of
mm,
like, push it, get it out there, get it out there, get it out there. And I did. And I'm so happy that I did, because it's changing women's lives and it's giving them that little starting point, that little prompt, like, oh, I didn't think about it like that. Oh, I really
mm.
need to, get this constructive feedback, or how do I take constructive feedback? And what exactly are positive affirmations and goal setting? What does that mean? And how do I do goal setting? And what are SMART goals? And how do I, so it just really breaks it down for you. But I definitely understand just that fighting of like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. And then you do it and you're like, okay, I am so happy that I did. The next
Yes.
book I will write will not be a workbook. I think it's going to be a tell-all book. But that's
Ooh.
kind of what I'm like fighting with now as well. Like, part of me is ready and I'm like kind of scared to do it, but it's going to happen for sure because I feel it.
It's going to happen, and here's how I know. So there's a story in the Bible where Jesus he's telling the people a story, basically, right? And he's telling them about this master he calls 10 servants in, and he has 10 pieces of mina. Okay, mina is like money, right? And he
Mhm.
gives each one of them one piece each. And he goes on this journey and he says, okay, I want you guys to, do something with it, right? Multiply it in some way, shape, or form. And when I come back, I'm going to collect all that you have done. And so he comes back and he calls in the first servant, and the first servant brings in 10 pieces of mina. Now, he had one. He multiplied it to 10. So the master's like, well done, you did well, right? The next servant, he brings in 5. He started with 1, he brings in 5. He's like, okay, well done, you did great. Well, now he calls in the third servant, and the third servant returns with the same one piece that he had. And the master goes to tell this servant, and he says, you're a lazy and wicked servant.
Mhm.
And he's very upset, and he takes what he gave to that servant and he gave it to the one that had 10. And so we use this as a reference to say that the Lord gives us all something so wonderful that we are meant to use.
Mhm.
In his word, in Isaiah 55, it says that, his word does not return void. It sets out to do everything that it was set out to do. It accomplishes everything that it was set out to do, right? So one way or the other, God is going to have his way.
Yeah.
And we have a saying in the military. I was in the army, and we
Mhm.
have a saying in the military. It's either voluntarily or voluntold.
Oh, we're
Okay.
voluntold all the time.
Right. And so if we don't step into our greatness and do what God has called us to do, surely that will be taken and given to the one who will do. And
Mhm.
so it's like, if I don't write this book, somebody else is going to write this book. But why do we need to wait 10 years for the next generation to write the book? Why don't I just be obedient now and do it
Yeah.
regardless of the outcome? Because yeah, maybe it doesn't work out, and at least I did it, and I'm not fearful anymore because I know I can do it again.
Mhm.
But if it does work out, how many lives are going to be changed because of it, right? So
Mhm.
that I believe that everyone has a story to tell, regardless of whether they think that they're their best writer or not. That's why we have ghostwriters and
Yep.
editors and all that fun stuff in
We got
between,
the
right?
resources.
Right. But if you have a story, tell it,
Mhm.
because you never know whose life that will change, and you don't know what it's going to turn into. Like
Mhm.
for me, this book, because we're now creating a workbook, I'm able to bless others who probably have 10, 20, 30 years of experience more on me in the ministry world than I would have ever had, but they're seeing this from a different point of view now. And now they know how to reach people that are, in my generation or younger, right? And that's what it's all for. So we've got to be able to help encourage each other. I'm working on the next book. I want to put it out this year, but I gotta ask God. I gotta consult God on this one.
Yeah.
But basically, it's called Becoming a Woman of Influence, and we're
Mhm.
diving deep into the book of Proverbs 31. Most women have a misconception that the moment that they get married and have children, that their life is over and that they're not supposed to have businesses and they're
Mhm.
not supposed to do this and they're not supposed to do that. And so this one is really going to teach women, one, how to use our influence. right? We were created to have a specific level of influence that shapes our world, right? Men are the foundation and they set the foundation, but women are for multiplication. That means we develop and we grow things. We take something, a very little, and turn it into the most magnificent things because that's the way God created us. So we're going to be talking about that in the book. So I'm excited about that one. We're working on that one, and we've got some courses developed around it. What I've been able to do is out of the books that we've written so far, and I do have daily devotionals. People can go to itsanewlife.com and they can sign up for the devotionals. They're completely free. But we do devotionals as well. And so some of those devotionals have come from the books that I've written, or some of them have been devotionals that are turned into courses, because I do offer a monthly membership where people can take the courses, their Bible study courses, right? But they're like, how to be a kingdom entrepreneur, how to be successful in that, right? You talked about goal setting. People think that that's not in the Bible. That is a big lie.
Wow.
It's there, right? So how do we take these kingdom principles and use it in everyday life right here in 2024? Like these things were written tens of thousands of years ago, but how do we do it in 2024? It's still relevant today.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. You've been amazing. I am, like I said before, I'm so thankful to have you here on the Beauty in You podcast today. I wanted to ask if you had any upcoming conferences or anything like that that people can be a part of.
So we had one scheduled for May. I ended up having to cancel it. So if you go to the website, if my editors are still working on it, if you see it, please do not sign up for that. Okay. The reason being is because in June, I'm traveling to Nigeria where I'll be doing a few speaking engagements there. But in August, we are set to host a conference in Tucson, Arizona. And then in September, we'll be in Atlanta. And in October, we'll be in Texas. So those are going to actually be coming out soon. They're going to be on the website. They can go to the website. It's newlife.com, and New Life is spelled NULYF. But they can go on to there. And I'm constantly hosting live webinars. Again, a lot of them are free. Some they're paid for. Yes, they're affordable. Don't get me wrong. But some of them are free. And so it doesn't matter what your pockets look like. There's something for everyone that's there. But yeah, they could go to the website and check it out. All of the events, the books, the podcast, all that stuff is on there.
Yay! And can you tell the audience where to find you on your socials?
Yes. So on Instagram, you can find me at Phyllis New Life. Facebook, you can find me at Phyllis New Life. TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram, I do have business pages. It's a New Life. So you just go to them. It's all New Life, guys. Just go to New Life and you'll see me. If you don't see me, you'll see my logo. It's a pretty green and orange tree. Yeah.
Yes. And
I gotta thank you. I just wanted to say thank you so much for having me on here. This has been phenomenal. And I'm so glad that you did this, because I feel like as women, we're painted as having this target, like we don't know how to get along. We don't know how to encourage each other. We don't know how to get together and have a good time and support one another. And so I'm just so grateful that you put this out here so that we as women can have a safe place to come together, to cry on each other's shoulder, and then to pick each other up and fix each other's crowns.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. And again, thank you so much for being a part of the Beauty in You podcast. Guys, I'll make sure to link all of her information below so you can join a part of her great community. All right, y'all. It's been great. Until next time.
Thank you for joining us on this week's episode of the Beauty in You podcast. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. Visit us at thechiquitamack.com or join us on Instagram at thechiquitamack for your daily motivation and inspiration. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Until next time.